All right, folks, we're back. Hopefully, this works a little bit better. Oh, good, we're still in the green. As long as we're in the green, then we will be mean. No, that's wrong. As long as the color of our internet bandwidth is lime, we will do just fine. There we go. It's like a stoplight. Green means go. Red means I'm glitching. Yeah. It's a joke about how bananas are the opposite of stoplights because green means wait, and yellow means go, and red means what kind of banana are you eating. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to math, round 2 of today. Thank you for being patient. Order of operations and using parentheses is what we're working on today. We've seen parentheses in writing and reading, but we have not seen it yet in math, at least not in a focused way. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that today. Here's what you're going to need: something to write on, something to write with. Here are our I cans down here. I'm going to read them out. I can define a mathematical expression as a mathematical sentence without an equal sign. I can simplify an expression in the correct order to ensure an accurate result. I can use parentheses to show which part of an expression is to be simplified first. Okay, so here's our word wall that we got going on. And in terms of the order of operations up here, first, to review our word wall, we've got our expression as a mathematical sentence or a mathematical kind of operation or computation without an equal sign. So just an expression by itself. We're not comparing it to anything using an equal sign. Okay. To compute means to calculate using mathematical operations. So technically, you are a computer right now because you are doing mathematical computation. The sum, if you see sum in a computation in words, that means add, right? The sum is the total of 2 or more addends. The difference is subtraction. So if you hear find the difference between two numbers, you're going to have to subtract the smaller one from the larger one to find the difference between the two. And then product is the result of 2 or more. Thank you to those of you that pointed that out yesterday. 2 or more factors being multiplied together. 6 times 4, the product would be 24. And then here in the order of operations, so what we're going to start to get into is we're going to start to have expressions that have multiple operations. You might see multiply and an add in the same expression. You might see a subtract and a divide in the same expression. Okay? And there is an order to which we do those operations. Okay? And we're going to practice and work on that today. Okay? And over here it says, first, simplify all parts of the expression inside parentheses. Then multiply or divide from left to right. Last, add or subtract from left to right. That's a lot. So I don't expect you to fully be comfortable with that just based on that definition, of course, but that definition is going to live there as long as we work on expressions. The important thing today is let's jump right into the digital whiteboard and really start to talk about what it looks like to do the order of operations in order and out of order. So here's what we're starting with. Oh, let me scoot myself. I'm going to move myself down here to the corner, I think. Okay, great. So our first expression that we're looking at right now is 3 times 8 plus 4. And what I want us to remember, looking down there at the bottom right-hand corner of our screen, okay, first, parentheses. Do you see any parentheses in this expression? No. No, you do not. So, we've got nothing to do there. Then, multiply or divide from left to right. Okay, what I mean by that is we're going to go from the left over here. Here's the left. Oop, let me turn my pen on. That will probably help. Oh, no way. There we go. Thank goodness. From left to right. I thought my pen was out of battery. I was about to lose it. Here's our left. There's our right. So starting from the left and going towards the right, we're going to look in the first multiplication or division operation we have. We're going to do that one first, okay? If you had something with, let's say, as an example, let's say you had something, well, we'll get to it in the next, we'll actually get to it in the next example, so I won't jump ahead. So our first operation we're going to do is 3 times 8. So let's go ahead and simplify that. What is 3 times 8? And we're going to write our simplified expression directly below our example expression. So 3 times 8 would be, anybody? Anybody? It's not 95. Okay, 3 times 8 is 24. And then we still have our plus 4. Okay, so 3 times 8 is 24. Okay, do we have any more multiplication or division in this expression? No. Okay, last thing, add or subtract. 24 plus 4 is 28. So our most simple version of this expression, 3 times 8 plus 4, would be 28. Okay, and you could say 3 times 8 plus 4 equals 28 if you were making a comparison using the equal sign. Okay, now I mentioned parentheses and I haven't talked about it yet, and I want to do that with this equation because I want to point something out. Parentheses are to show if you want whatever operation you want to do first, regardless of multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay, whatever you want to do first, you're going to put that in parentheses. Okay, so for instance, if we were to put 3 times 8 plus 4 into words, what might we say? If we were going to do 3 times 8 plus 4 as a computational sentence, what might we say? You might say something like this: multiply (3) by 8, then add 4, right? But what if you wanted to do the addition first? What if you had, instead of this, what if you had a sentence that looked like this? Find the product of 3 and the sum of 8 and 4. Find the product of 3 and the sum of 8 and 4. I'll scoot this over a little bit so you can see it. Okay, that's going to be very different. Okay, and Mars dropped it in the chat. So using those parentheses, and what we're going to do is we're going to put parentheses around. I'm going to go ahead and erase this bit here. Go back to our original expression. And because with this one, we want to find the sum of 8 and 4 first to be able to multiply that by 3, we need to take parentheses and put them around our 8 plus 4. Okay, now our expression has changed because rather than doing 3 times 8 first, we're going to do 8 plus 4 first and then multiply it by 3. And as Mars notes, okay, as Mars notes, you could actually put the 8 plus 4 first, and that's okay. So now let's evaluate and simplify this expression with the parentheses. So rather than doing 3 times 8 first, First, we're going to deal with what's inside the parentheses, which in this case is 8 plus 4. And what's 8 plus 4? Eight plus 4 equals, exactly, 12. So now we have what is essentially 3 times 12. And what is 3 times 12? Or 12 plus 12 plus 12, right? 12 times 1 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, 12 times 3 is 36. Okay, so parentheses can make a big difference because what was our simplification of our last expression without the parentheses, right? It was 3 times 8 first to get 24 and then add 4 to make 28. So by putting those parentheses in, we change the value of our expression, right? It's wild to think that just by using parentheses, you end up with something like 3 times 8 plus 4 does not equal 3 times 8 plus 4. Okay, the position of our parentheses is super, super important, right? Because it, oh, hold on. You can't see that part because my face is in the way. There we go. Okay. So this section is actually really, really important because parentheses, that's the important thing to remember, that parentheses go first. Okay, parentheses always go first. And what these expressions are with multiple operations is they're kind of like, you know, a series of little mini math problems within a bigger thing, right? First you solve this operation, then you solve the next operation, and you keep going until you can't solve anymore, right? Once we get to variables, there you might, you know, we might get to a situation where you won't end up with one number. You'll end up with just a smaller and more kind of interestingly, or a smaller and kind of more neatly packed expression. But we'll get there. Don't worry about that part yet. Let's try a different one. It's going to look similar, but it's very different. Okay, let's try 3 times 8 divided by 4 as I move my face back down to the bottom corner. Okay, so take a look. Do we have parentheses in 3 times 8 divided by 4? No. So we're going to go from left to right. We see here there's both multiplication and division in this expression. So we're going to move from left to right. Okay, well, that's a shoddily drawn arrow. There we go. Left to right. And whichever one comes up first, whichever operation is furthest to the left, we're going to do that first. So we're going to do the 3 times 8 and simplify that first. Then whatever we get from 3 times 8, we will divide it by 4. So let's try that. 3 times 8 equals, if we remember it from the last expression, 3 times 8 equals 24. And then 24 divided by 4 equals what? We've got it in the chat already. (24) divided by 4 equals 6, right? Or 4 times 6 equals 24, right? Those are our pairs there, or our kind of multiplication or division triangle kind of looks like almost. So we end up with 6. as our most simple form of this expression once we've done our operations in the correct order. Okay. Now, let's change some things with some parentheses. Rather than doing 3 times 8 divided by 4, let's do 3 times 8 divided by 4 and see what happens with a multiplication and a division. Does it change the answer? Does it change the, I'm going to try and get away from using the word answer, right? Does it change the sort of most simple form once you've done all the operations you can do? Okay, does it change the most simple form? So this time, do the 8 divided by 4 first, and then multiply that result by 3. Try that. So start with 8 divided by 4 because it's inside the parentheses. 8 divided by 4 is, if you have 8, you put it into groups of 4, you're going to have 2 groups of 4. So that's inside our parentheses. We keep the rest of our expression the same. So in essence, we have 3 times 2, which in this case does equal 6. Okay, so in this case, our most simple form is the same, okay, with a multiplication and division operation in our expression. But that was not true of our first problem up here with multiplication and addition in the same expression. Very interesting. Okay, for this second part, we're going to start with, this time, we're going to start with a computation in words. We're going to start with a computational sentence telling us to do something. So the first thing we want to do is set up our expression, add parentheses if we need to, if it says in the problem to do a certain operation first, and then we're going to simplify it. Okay, so our sentence goes as follows. Find the sum of 8 and 10, and then divide by 2. Find the sum of 8 and 10, then divide by 2. So what would that look like as an expression with just numbers and symbols? Numbers and operations. Find the sum of 8 and 10. Okay, if we, oh, I wish I could pull the word wall over here too. Sum equals, or sum means, I should say. Let me pull back to the full cam. Sum means add, right? The total of 2 or more addends. Okay, so we're going to add 8 and 10 and then divide by 2. Yep, and Eve has got the parentheses there. 8, oop, come on. There we go. It's taking a minute today. 8 plus 10 divided by 2. Now go ahead and simplify and solve. So start with what's inside the parentheses, then divide. And see what you come up yet. If you don't have the divide sign on your keyboard, you can always use the slash. It's the one on the same key as the question mark. The slash works as a divide sign. Okay, I'm seeing some answers in the chat. Great. So let's solve it together. Start inside the parentheses. So 8 plus 10 is 18. And then 18 divided by 2 equals 9. There's our simplified form. There's our equality. I'm not even actually going to put the equal sign in just to keep it as an expression. So 18 divided by 2 equals 9. And I'll keep my parentheses there so it looks even clearer. Okay, so start with what's inside the parentheses, then multiply or divide, and then add or subtract outside the parentheses at the end. Okay, and I picked this problem because when you don't put the parentheses in, something very interesting happens. So here would be, I'm going to put it in pink, if you didn't have the parentheses, divided by 2, or if you're typing, 8 plus 10 divided by 2, our slash can also be used. Okay. Now, according to, in this one, in the pink, according to our order of operations, what should come first? Right? Before we get to the adding, because there's no parentheses, we go to the then, multiply and divide from left to skip the addition and go straight to, it's almost as if we had parentheses here because we're doing the division first. Okay, 10 divided by 2 is 5, or 10 halves equals 5. And then we have our plus 8 that we bring down. 8 plus 5 is 13. So notice how that changes the value of our expression. Really interesting. So parentheses are important. They can make a big difference in many equations. Not all of them, as we saw from our second example, but for many of them. Okay, really, really interesting. All right, last one before we go, and this is going to be up to you here. What operation do we do first in this sentence? Multiply the difference between 6 and 10 by 4. Multiply the difference between 6 and 10 by 4. Whoa. So we know we've got, let's take a look at what operations we hear in that sentence, right? We've got multiply, and then we've got the word difference. And think about what operation we use when we are finding the difference between two numbers. So see if you can write that out using numbers and symbols in an expression. Symbols meaning your plus sign, your minus sign, your times sign, your divide sign, your parentheses, right? Those are our symbols that we're working with here. So multiply the difference between 6 and 10 by 4. So I'm seeing a lot of really focusing in on, and it's a really good thing here, focusing in on, there we go, this bit here, right? The difference between 6 and 10. In knowing, right, if I'm finding the difference between two numbers, I need to start with the one of greater value. 10 minus 6. Can't be 6 minus 10. Well, not yet. It can be 6 minus 10, but we're not working in negative numbers. So our only option available to us right now is 10 minus 6. You will get to negative numbers, but not this year. Okay, so 10 minus 6, and we know we need a times 4. Now, should it go at the beginning or at the end? Question. I see most people putting it at the end. So we have a 10 minus 6 times 4, which makes sense. It comes at the end of our sentence. And I see almost everybody putting our subtraction in the parentheses. Because, yeah, we absolutely need to know what the difference is between 6 and 10 before we multiply. That's clear from the sentence, right? It doesn't say multiply 6 by 4 and then find the difference between that and 10, right? It clearly says multiply the difference between 6 and 10. That's one term, that's one chunk, by 4. So here we've got 10 minus 6 times 4. Could we have done this? Would that have worked? Let's try them both and let's see. Okay, so start with 10 minus 6 is 4 times 4 equals 16. And then in our gold one, 10 minus 6 equals 4 times 4 equals 16. Yeah, they both work.